Hello, welcome to Alive to Thrive OT. I'm Lauren Lyman, and today I'm here with John Sacelli. And John is an Urban Shaman, so he's going to talk to us a little bit about his journey and how he helped people improve their health and their wellness, and how he continues to help people help other people. So John, thank you so much for being here with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to where you are today?
Okay. I love to tell stories. So I'll just start. I had my Ivy League degree, and I was offered access to the higher realms of, society and that kind of. I just jumped off the ladder of success. That was back in the 1960s. And instead, I became a community organizer in Chicago. I was also a civil rights volunteer in Alabama, that kind of thing. So that went on for a few years. And then we went into another phase of life where people were looking for more spiritual direction. And I was pretty exhausted with the political at that point too. So people were going to India to find their gurus and going to Japan to find their Zen masters and that kind of thing. And I didn't have the money to do that at that point, but I ended up finding my guru in Chicago and my Zen master in Chicago. And that kind of started me off on my spiritual journey. But for some reason today, I've been thinking about the time that I spent in Hawaii. So I think I'd talk a little bit about that. I met a kahuna there called Abraham Kawai, and he was the one who taught me, or really taught me about our energy field. He had the widest and the strongest field of anybody I've ever encountered in my life. And I could feel him coming from about a half mile away. It was like a change in the weather or something like that. But you had to be part of his community in order to get that energy. So I'll just tell one story. There was a guy that I became friends with, a young Hawaiian guy called well, his name was Ben anyway. And he and I did a lot of the exercises together. But one day I was driving up the Magic Mountain, Haleakala, and all of a sudden I just blanked out. And I couldn't remember where I was or why I was there, where I was going. And I kept trying to shake it off and I couldn't. So finally I pulled over the road, and then a couple minutes later it cleared and everything came back to me. Well, I ran into Ben a couple of days later, and he's saying, "Oh, I see you, Juan. I see you up the Magic Mountain." He said, "I'm in my car with my friends. I'm following you." I said, "I'm going to teach them about Kahuna, about Huna." So I say, I'm going to vibe him. I'm going to follow my friend with my eyes closed, driving." So he said, so he closed his eyes. And he had his hands on the wheel, and they were all screaming, "Ben, Ben, what are you doing? What are you doing?" And he said, I just follow him. I'm vibing him. But all of a sudden he disappeared. So, that was just the psychic connections that we were taught to have. And people have intellectual names for them now. We call them the morphic field or something like that. But we are all connected. We are all connected. But I'll tell you one more story about Abraham too. That's kind of the dark side of that connection. And he told me this story. He said that before Captain Cook showed up in Hawaii, the first white man to come to Hawaii, that the local kahunas knew he was coming. They already understood that, but they felt trapped by their own system. And their system was a system of allegiances in which they competed with each other to attract as many people into their circle as possible. The more people they had in the circle, the more power they had. And they had a contract with the people in the circle where they would use the power of the collective for the benefit of the individuals, as long as the individuals shared, it was like a tax of their energy field for anything else that the Kahuna wanted to accomplish. So you had Kahuna Wars going on all the time between different Kahunas. And he said they agreed that they didn't know how to get out of the trap that they were in. And they knew that the white man would, when the white man came, that it would shut down the whole thing, because there was no belief system among the whites that would allow them access. So they would be like barriers, psychic barriers, wherever they showed up. And so everybody would have to start over again, which is what's happened in Hawaii. And I was talking to you a little bit about the program that have been watching now. It's a serial on the Rajneesh community in Oregon some years ago, back in the 70s. And the corruption, when the different sources of power, one was Rajneesh, and one was his secretary, Mananand Sheila. They had two poles competing with each other for power in that community, and both of them were corrupt. But all of the people who joined in, who eventually, many of them thought of themselves as the victims of the teachings, but they all agreed to give up their own free will, whichever side they followed. And it's harder when we have to take responsibility for all of our own decisions. But that's basically, you never give up your will. You never give up your individuality. You look around and you say, who's going in the same direction I am? I will cooperate, I will collaborate, but I will not be led. I will not be controlled. I won't make it easy for myself. So we're here, we're all tested over and over again in so many different ways. But, and the path is never in a straight line. It's always curving and zigging. And it tests our ability to be intuitive about how to stay on that path of truth. So I'll take a break here.
All right, thank you. Can you talk to us a little bit more about shamanism, what it is, and how you use it in your practice to help people?
Well, shamanism stems from the same root as shadow. And it's the shadow man or the shadow person. That basically, the power time of a shaman is between light and dark. So dawn and dusk are the major powers, where you have access. There's a world of light and there's a world of darkness. And dreams go back and forth between them, and we go back and forth between them, and so on. But the idea of the shaman is a person who can walk between the realities, and so is not caught by one or the other, by the dark side or by orthodoxy. I mean, we see so much of that going on in our political realm today, where you have people who just want to be told, what to do, wanted to line up with a group that has a certain direction that's consistent, whether it's a religious direction or a political party or, an economic tradition or whatever it is. And then the shamans are the people who can say, I see a truth here, so I'm going to go there. And then I see a truth over here, which appears to be contradictory to the truth over here, but they're both the truth. They're both the truth, so they can't be contradictory. So you can't pin me down on what my religion is. You can't pin me down on what my political affiliation is. I'm always going to be listening to what is the truth at any given time. And so I think a shaman is but there is one other thing that a shaman usually has an ally, which is usually an animal totem. And you have to, you don't choose your totem chooses you. And it's like having you have invested a certain amount of energy in seeking your own path. And when that energy investment is big enough, something or someone tunes into it and makes a connection with you. And then you have your ally. So that, for instance, came to me in 1983. I had a dream, I had a nightmare in which I was being chased by this big hunting cat of some kind. And of course, as in a nightmare, you're terrified, you feel hopeless, you're exhausted, you're trying to escape. But there was a very objective part of my mind going on. What kind of animal is this? Well, it's a cat. What kind of cat is it? Is it a tiger? No, it's not a tiger. Is it a lion? Is it a panther? Is it a jaguar? Going through the names of cats. And then in the nightmare part, I collapse in a clearing. I can't go any further. The cat comes to the edge of the clearing. I sense it gathering itself to leap. It's going to come and tear me apart. And then the objective part of my mind says, is it a lynx? Yes, it's a lynx. And as soon as I heard that, all the fear went away, all the terror, all the exhaustion. And I turned and I leaped at the lynx as it leaped at me. And in the dream, we passed through each other. We dropped to the ground and we started running together. We ran across the United States and we ran down south into Central America, which is why I'm in Central America now at the end of my life. And we ran, it was a voyage of discovery long before I had ever heard about anything like the Mayan end date. I was actually being shown the Mayan end date, or the schools where it was taught. It was really, it was a really interesting journey. And every once in a while, I will have another dream that kind of takes me to the next stage of that original dream. But that is a shaman's experience, to have that kind of initiation come to them.
Wow, that sounds incredible. So what is the impact you want to leave on the world? What are you still working on with other people? What would you like to offer to the group?
One of the things that I do is I started actually right after having that dream, I did the first soul circle. And the evolution of our species right now, we're obviously at a crisis point in human evolution and on the planet as a whole. And it's only going to be resolved by our finding ways to create community with each other that is not a rigid community. It's a tribe, but it's not a tribe in the old sense where the members of your tribe could not be members of another tribe. You were either this or you were that. What we are creating as tribes together right now has, each of us becomes the center of our own tribe after we have individuated. That's part of a wolf teaching. The wolf teaching is that you start off as a pack wolf, and then if you are seeking power, you become a lone wolf, and you have to live a certain amount of time as a lone wolf. And then you mate, and when you mate, you start a new pack. Now you're the alpha wolf, and your mate is the co-alpha wolf. So each person who has gone through that stage of individuation, the dark night of the soul is one phrase for it, has gone through the struggles of saying, I don't accept the story that's being told me in mass consciousness. It just doesn't feel right to me. I have to make my way by myself. After you've done that with integrity for a certain amount of time, you begin discovering other people who have also gone through that process, and you begin creating circles with them. And since each one of them is also the center of their own circles, the circles interlink and they keep spreading. And that's the hope that we have for the world, is so creating those kinds of circles.
That's a really good way to explain it. I really like that. Thank you. So if people are looking for some guidance, I know John focuses more on helping people grow as mentors, as gurus, as people who help other people. So if people are looking to contact you, can they go to your website, email?
Yeah, or just email me directly, SALYNX, it got that Lynx animal in it, at me.com. So, yeah, the Lynx is me, that's my,
Okay.
right.
So thank you. I will put John's contact information in the description for this video. And John, is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Oh, I'd start off on another long story here. So I think I've, we've hit the essence here.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for the amazing impact that you have on the world.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you for doing what you are doing.